And you know, another important point is the money loss. Denise, you were talking about when you file that claim. People need to understand that once the claim is filed, that's when the clock starts ticking. There's your favor. Now, however long it takes to adjudicate that, we said 9 months, or luckily for one, you got back in a couple, 3 months or so. So whatever that time frame is, that's they're paid right retro back.
Right. Actually, if you were to file, for instance, on February 15th, it would be the next month, the first of the next month. So your benefits would go back to March 1st in that instance. If what we like to do, if we just meet the client and we don't have time to, it's getting toward the first of the month, the next month, we like to always file a letter with the Veterans Department letting them know it's called a notice of intention to file a claim. That way they at least get that letter and they receive that, and we send that by registered mail so that we know that they've received it and they've signed for it. And then at that point, then we start working on the application.
And you got 30 days to get it in?
Well, no, we don't even have 30 days. That notice will be retroactive to that next date, and I think we have up to a year to get the application in, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
So then we can start it, but we don't ever take a year to get that together because we're trying to get them their money as quickly as they possibly can. So we don't like them to sit on it. With doing all of these forms, it's not only just the forms, we also have to get doctor forms, their doctor's examination forms, and we also have to get forms signed by their assisted living center. And so we have to go out and get, we want to make sure that the doctor gets those forms in a timely way to us too.
And physicians are notorious for just scribbling something out, and what you've done really well is you sent the application, look, you as a physician have to say in these words, this individual needs this kind of attendance. So they're like, oh, fine, well, sure, that's what I meant to say. Well, that's not what came out when you do it. And again, it's in filling out these forms, if you don't fill them out right, you leave something blank, you forget something, then it's denied.
Right, and we don't want them to be denied. Once in a while, a form can be held up because they want more information, that's okay. But we don't want them to be denied. And so we actually will tell the doctor, number one, it has to be legible, and that, these people actually need the aid and attendance of another person for their daily living. And so it's very important that the physician fills those forms out. And we in Muskegon County are so fortunate because we have so many geriatric physicians that work with our veterans that they actually know they want them to get these funds as well. So they are going to fill these forms out the way that will help the veteran or the surviving spouse of a veteran. So we try to get that to them. And so do the assisted living. I mean, it's beneficial to them for them to get that benefit because then these these seniors aren't running out of funds to be able to stay in their facilities as well.
And examples, we said a little over $1,000 for a single.
Right.
For the spouse.
It's $1,056 and $1,644 for the veteran, and $1,949 if the veteran and their spouse need help.
Yeah, almost $2,000 a month, $1,000 to $2,000. So if you mess around for the 2 months Anna was talking about, there's $2,000 or $4,000 you missed out on getting back. And I know I've had one that came up the center there who got his, and he said, you know what, for 4 years I could have been drawing this. And my spouse, that was almost $100,000. $100,000 in aid they just lost because they didn't know, unfortunately. Nobody picked up on it, and nobody made them aware of it. And that's sad because they had to drain $100,000 of their assets to get the care they wanted, and this is a benefit that they earned by their veteran status. The government says, we'll provide this for you if you give us this. And so you feel bad about those, but
The other thing is that I think that in addition to just having that money, it also is providing people with options that they might not otherwise be able to afford. So a lot of times what we'll see is when people run out of funds, then they have to transfer from that assisted living facility to a nursing home because that's all that they can afford. when they have the veterans aid and attendance, that oftentimes then gives them the ability to stay in an assisted living facility for a longer period of time, which often that assisted living facility is a lot more optimum for them than going into a nursing home, because there's more social activities, it's just a lot more of a vibrant atmosphere, and so I think that what's so great about this is it gives them more options for how they're going to take care of their long-term care needs, and it doesn't just mean, with this extra money, most people with this together with their Social Security can afford an assisted living facility. And we found that there's a number of assisted living facilities who are willing to take just the aid and attendance and the Social Security. They're willing to work with the veterans, and I think that that's just a wonderful thing too. And so, we try to help connect people with those facilities that we know favor the vets and are willing to do the veterans and do those kind of things.
Or they're staying in the home. I mean, the longer
they're staying in the home, which is
home, the better off you
fantastic.
are. And it's that issue of like having somebody come in and do the stuff for you. Well, if you're asking your nephew or the kid or the neighbor or a lady down the street to do something, you're thinking, well, I don't want to ask her because, they're already coming in. They say, hey, I can pay you now, and then you're going to benefit by this because you got some income coming in, and now I feel okay about you coming in the door and help me clean my house and help me do the things that I can no longer do, but I'm able to stay in my house if you'll do this for me. It's better for everybody, and it's a benefit that everybody benefits by, and it's something that's pretty special. So that's great. So if you haven't filled one out, or if you're eligible for one, then look into it. Ask the questions. Get the brochure. Like I said, go online, and we'll have it on our webpage. MuskegonVeterans.com is what our new website's going to be, and it'll be linked to this. Or come down to the office here and pick up a brochure, or they'll probably send one out to you. And look it over, and get your house in order. Get your financial stuff in order. It's easy to say real fast, but it's always difficult to do after the fact, and it's always harder to pick it up. It's that peace of mind stuff that you guys offer. So, Anna, one of the things we see a lot of times is the crisis management. I'm sure you get the calls I've had in my office. My parents had a stroke, or one of them did, or my spouse. They're in a nursing home, they're in a hospital, and the hospital says, okay, you got to go. Yeah. And then, what do?
I would say the majority of our calls are in crisis situations, just like what you're saying. And unfortunately, that's the way the hospitals operate. Once they're done with their part of it, they say you've got less than 24 hours to find something else, and they can't. You can't stay here, and we don't recommend that they go home. And a lot of times they'll say we'll even call Adult Productive Services if you do take them home. So you're going to have to find another place to take them. And so then they come to us and they say, we don't know what we can afford, we don't know where to go, we don't know what to do, and we can either come out to the hospital if that's appropriate, or they can, where we come out to the house, which is also something that we often will do because that's where all of the paperwork and things are centrally located. But we just help them work through that and take it one step at a time and kind of dissect it piece by piece and help them work through that. And we start with seeing what they can afford and where the best place will be for that person.
Yeah, and we talked earlier too about this community. This community is so great about looking after each other. I always say, people say about the homeless thing. I said, well, there are a lot of homeless, but you don't see them because we're from a blue-collar community and we take care of our own. And before you saw one of your family members in a shelter someplace, you move them into your house. It's the same thing with this. This community, the doctors, the hospitals, the care facilities, hospice are just absolutely phenomenal. And as people, as individuals, we always wait till it's right down around your ankle. You say, no, man, now what am I going to do? And then here we go, and you want somebody to bail you out. And you can only do so many miracles. So that's why we really encourage you to do a little planning. But
don't think it's too late when you're in those situations to do the planning because you certainly have time. We prefer to have more time than that, but I see a lot of people in those situations, and we're happy to help and never think that it's too late to do planning.
And we always do an emergency mode. If they're in trouble, Anna and I work together. We split up the duties to see, okay, we're going to figure out how we're going to place them, how we're going to save their money, what we're going to do for them, and then we get it in position right away. And we always take it very seriously and very personally. we get really
I know.
attached to our clients.
But they're
Unfortunately,
like saying, like family. You make them feel like family.
they're like family to us, and if we can help them in that situation, I mean, there's been times when, you know, we've gotten calls very late, and we've actually seen family members at night, so, because the sons or daughters have to work, so we just try to do that team approach always, and always to do the best for our client.
So if you're out there and you know of an elderly person who may be a veteran or the widow or of a vet that might need some health care, and they have no family looking after them, it's just Mr. Jones up the street here, and you know he's kind of by himself, and he's elderly, or she's a widow, and you just wonder, ask the questions. If you're a good neighbor, go ahead and ask the questions and say, hey, did you know there might be some help out there you didn't even know about? Because I'm telling you, every day I get calls of widows who had no idea because the vet never talked to them about it. The vets don't even know themselves.
Yeah, the onus is on the veterans to apply for this.
But they don't even know. I didn't know I had that coming to me.
Right.
What is this? Hey, I talked to Joe over the fence here. He got hearing aids, and then we talked about this aid and attendance stuff, and by golly, I'm eligible for it too. It's that word of mouth thing, so that's why this shows is so important. If it doesn't affect you personally, you may know somebody that it does, that you can certainly pass this on and say, hey, I watched the show the other day, they're talking about this aid and attendance thing, you're a vet or an older vet, have you looked into that? Just plant the seed out there and give them a telephone number. Hey, give these people a call, and they'll be able to talk to you and see if you're eligible and qualified, and it's a good deal.